It's Thursday, July 25th, 2024. Joe Biden breaks his silence. Pro-Hamas orcs rage outside of Bibi's speech. And FBI Director Wray actually opens up for once, relatively speaking. Next on the AM Update.
I believe my record as president, my leadership in the world, my vision for America's future, all merited a second term. But nothing can come in the way of saving our democracy. That includes personal ambition.
That is Joe Biden last night in his address to the nation from the Oval Office, announcing officially in front of the cameras for the first time that he is not running for re-election. He is dropping his bid for re-election. The speech was probably about 10-15 minutes long. And after those opening remarks, he went into what he believes his record is. It was just full of lies, obfuscations. His score on the Pinocchio meter was off the charts. Literally nothing what he said about his record, whether it was the border, whether it was conflicts around the world, whether it was pick and choose your issue. Basically, it was all just chock full of lies and gaslighting. He did make it clear, though, he's not stepping down in the next 6 months.
In the next 6 months, I'll be focused on doing my job as president. That means I'll continue to lower costs for hardworking families, grow our economy. I'll keep defending our personal freedoms and our civil rights, from the right to vote to the right to choose. I'll keep calling out hate and extremism. Make it clear there is no place in America for political violence or any violence ever, period. I'm going to keep speaking out to protect our kids from gun violence, our planet from climate crisis that is the existential threat. And I will keep fighting for my cancer moonshot so we can end cancer as we know it, because we can do it.
So he's going to cure cancer in the next 6 months as well. Presentation-wise, it's not the worst Biden performance, but he's not all there. He's just still not all there. And in terms of actually what he communicated, it's clear they're hiding something here. It's clear they're hiding something. Whether it was, did he have a stroke in Las Vegas? Did something happen that was beyond just a COVID diagnosis that cut his campaign trip short last week? They are being very, very clear, both Karine Jean-Pierre at the White House press room yesterday and the speechwriters during that speech last night. They're being very clear that Joe Biden is not, at least they're not overtly saying it, they're not dropping out. They're not dropping out because of health reasons. They're not dropping out because of fitness reasons. Because they know that if they say that, they're going to open themselves up to a whole new line of attack. They're going to be opening everybody up in their coalition in D.C. to whole new lines of attack. And so they're being very careful. It's just wicked. It's wicked. This from Mary Catherine Ham sums this up pretty perfectly for me. She's a podcaster, right-winger. The performance makes it clear he's in decline, but that's not the reason he's stepping aside. He's been a president to all Americans and doesn't see those who disagree with him as enemies, which is why he's passing the torch so Harris can save the country from the half of Americans who are out to destroy the country by disagreeing with him. It's just nonsensical. And that kind of sums up my take on that speech. Just a sad time. Just a sad time. Not sad because he's stepping down. It's a ridiculous, chaotic time. There's no real leadership here. And it's clear that there really hasn't been in the Oval Office, basically since Biden took over. Hey, I want to pause here before we move on real quick to remind you tomorrow is another edition of Ask or Tell Me Anything. You can ask me any question you want, tell me any news story you think needs covered on the AM Update that I missed. You make your submissions at the pinned tweet at Real AM Update on X. Ask or Tell Me Anything coming up tomorrow on the Friday edition. That is the sound of a mob of pro-Hamas orcs yesterday in Washington, D.C., descending on the nation's capital. burning an American flag. They tore several American flags down and in some cases raised a quote-unquote Palestinian flag, not sure what that is, in the American flag's place. It was an absolutely crazy and at times violent mob. At times, Capitol Police had to use pepper spray to disperse the crowd, and other times, Capitol Police had to reportedly retreat because the mob was getting so violent. What were they there to protest? Of course, the speech by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in front of the Senate.
It's amazing, absolutely amazing. Some of these protesters hold up signs proclaiming gays for Gaza. They might as well hold up signs saying chickens for KFC.
Say what you want to say about Bibi Netanyahu. He knows how to work a room. He's a pretty effective leader. Here he is later on during the closing part of his remarks.
I'm hopeful about America because I'm hopeful about Americans. I know how much the people of this country have sacrificed to defend freedom. America will continue to be a force for light and good in a dark and dangerous world. For free peoples everywhere, America remains the beacon of liberty its extraordinary founders envisioned back in 1776. Working together, I'm confident that our two nations will vanquish the tyrants and terrorists who threaten us both. As Israel's Prime Minister, I promise you this: no matter how long it takes, no matter how difficult the road ahead, Israel will not relent, Israel will not bend. We will defend our land, we will defend our people, we will fight until we achieve victory. Victory over liberty, victory of liberty over tyranny, victory of life over death, victory of good over evil. That's our solemn commitment.
From his lips to God's ears, I hope there's enough of a there within both of these countries that is the future, the reality. The reality of the future is that good can triumph over evil, because it sometimes doesn't seem like it can. Like I said earlier, there's a reason why Bibi Netanyahu has ascended and stayed in that ascension in Israel politics for so long. He's a very effective leader and communicator, and comes across as very strong. All the time, my entire life of having watched Bibi Netanyahu, he's a very strong leader. That's for sure. Later on, or earlier, I should say, in the speech, we got to talk about this. Whoever was running the cameras at C-SPAN, whoever was running the switcher at C-SPAN deserves a Pulitzer for what happened. I wish you could see this. But at one point in the speech, Bibi Netanyahu, talking to the Senate, was talking about how those pro-Hamas orcs outside were a bunch of useful idiots.
Well, I have a message for these protesters. When the tyrants of Tehran, who hang gays from cranes and murder women for not covering their hair, are praising, promoting, and funding you, you have officially become Iran's useful idiots.
Right at that moment, C-SPAN switched to a camera view of Rashida Tlaib, a congresswoman from Michigan, part of the squad, who was holding up a sign that said something along the lines of war criminal. Right when he said useful idiot, the camera panned right to Rashida Tlaib, who was holding up that ridiculous sign. Oh, man. You couldn't ask for better timing. I don't know if C-SPAN intended to do that, but it was good nonetheless. FBI Director Chris Wray yesterday testified in front of a House committee regarding a number of events, but most of the conversation took place about their investigation into what went down and what went wrong on July 13th with the near assassination of Donald Trump. For once, I thought, of course, Chris Wray being a Democrat appointee of the FBI, he's always going to be evasive, but he actually came up with more useful information in this hearing than I've ever heard him cough up before. Here's a line of questioning from Thomas Massey from Kentucky.
Shot that took out the would-be assassin.
I don't have the number of counter snipers. I know it was the Secret Service counter sniper who took the shot that eliminated the shooter. And we've conducted a number of interviews, including of him.
So was it one of the two that we see in the videos on top of the roof, or was it a different location that shows?
I'm afraid I don't have that at my fingertips here.
Okay. You mentioned that the would-be assassin bought a 5-foot ladder. You have a credit card evidence of that. But it looks like on the scene there was a larger ladder that he might have used. Do you know which ladder he used to get to the roof? And do you have possession of that 5-foot ladder and the other ladder? And do you know how the taller ladder got to the scene?
So this whole business about the ladder is something we're drilling into more. We do have possession of the 5-foot ladder that he purchased close in time to his attempted assassination. That we traced the purchase of that ladder from a receipt, a bloodied receipt that he had on him at the time his body was recovered on the roof. We do not yet know for sure how exactly he got up on the roof. We're looking at, various forensic pieces to try to kind of piece that together. So more to come on that.
Do you know where the 5-foot ladder was found or retrieved? Was it near the roof or was it still in his vehicle?
Neither. I don't have it in front of me, but I know that it was not. I know that it was not on scene, and I know that it was not in his vehicle. But we can circle back to you. And
okay.
Get to that.
Is there any evidence at all that he may have been in contact with somebody else before this occurred that may have had any prior knowledge or may have helped him plan this event?
Well, needless to say, that is a question that we're intensely focused on because that would obviously be incredibly meaningful. So far, underline, so far, we have not found any evidence of any accomplices or co-conspirators, foreign or domestic.
And you're using geolocation data to see if his cell phone was near another cell phone, I presume?
Right. We're doing lots of different kinds of cellular analysis, geolocation stuff, looking at his accounts. He from everything we've seen, which is consistent with what we've learned in interviews, a lot of people describe him as a loner. That does kind of fit with what we're seeing in his devices. His list of contacts, for example, is very short, compared to what you would normally see from most people. So it doesn't appear to be a whole lot of interaction between him, face-to-face or digital with a lot of people.
So that is FBI Director Chris Wray in a line of questioning from Thomas Massie, Congressman Thomas Massie. That is really interesting. I've played clips of Chris Wray on other issues, and it's always, when he's asked questions, I'm not familiar with that. I don't know. I'd have to refer you to this agency or this investigation, and I'm not sure about that. I've never heard him this open, actually, with what he knows about a particular investigation. Never heard him like that before. I think there's a pretty specific and pretty simple explanation for that, it could be. Maybe a couple of different explanations. I think one is less likely the reason why he actually, you look at his body language there, he's comfortable, unlike most questioning from Republicans that I've seen him in the past. He's very comfortable, almost cordial, doing his best to answer questions, which is unlike what we see from Chris Wray most of the time. I think the least likely simple explanation is Chris Wray knows that his agency has nothing to do with what happened on July 13th. And so he's totally open. For once his agency isn't screwing something up or involved with a conspiracy. So I think that's the less likely simple explanation. I think the more likely simple explanation is that he's really, really happy to make another agency involved in law enforcement really look bad. He's totally happy to make the Secret Service look bad here, because that makes his agency, by extension, look a little bit better in the eyes of, I don't know, some people, I'm sure. I thought that was very interesting. And there were other clips as well. Jim Jordan was questioning him. I mean, he was going into pretty good detail with, again, what he knows about the investigation thus far. Black Lives Matter, an organization, of course, known for race baiting and apparently facilitating protests, some of which are violent, has now called out members of the Democratic Party for installing Kamala Harris as their presumptive nominee for president after a series of process changes in 2024 that circumvented voters and their concerns. On Tuesday, Black Lives Matter posted lengthy statements to its website and X account, hinting that the Democratic Party has recently become a threat to democracy because of the party's seeming attempts to box out voters during the nomination process. BLM alleged that Democrats first fixed the primary system by refusing to host primary debates, thus concealing from the public the decline of Joe Biden in 2023. The organization also accused the DNC of rearranging the 2024 primary schedule in such a way as to assure Biden won the nomination, having, quote, made it almost impossible for non-Biden candidates to appear on the ballot. Then, after practically guaranteeing Biden's victory, the DNC turned around and forced him out, using his debate performance as pretext. The group said, I love this. It's delicious when the commies are fighting each other. It's just sit back when these things happen. Sit back, watch, and relax. You know, there's another thing along this vein that leaked yesterday, I believe from the New York Post. I'm not sure I could see either the Biden camp leaking this or the Obama camp leaking this. But apparently, Barack Obama was really hopping angry after Joe Biden dropped out and, this is what made him angry, endorsed Kamala Harris. That took Obama by surprise. He did not like that. And that's why Obama, to this point, has not endorsed Kamala Harris. It's pretty clear behind the scenes. And again, just human nature is what it is. Obama sees himself as kingmaker. So obviously he would have preferred if this just went to an open convention with nobody really having an upper hand. And then once he drops his endorsement, he probably thinks he has lots of sway, and he does in the Democrat Party. He could have gotten somebody like Deval Patrick, former governor of Massachusetts. Those two were really tight. That's what I saw circulating yesterday. So Barack Obama is really unhappy. Just sit back, pop some popcorn, and let the commies fight each other. Anyway, that'll do it for today. We'll be back at it again tomorrow for Ask or Tell Me Anything. You can make your submissions on X at RealAMUpdate. Ask any question you want. Tell me any news story that needs covered. That's tomorrow, Ask or Tell Me Anything. I'm Aaron McIntyre, and this is the AM Update.